we're going to be looking at the simplest SEO secret that stops photographers from wasting time and propels them towards the top of the Google search.
Welcome to Commercial Photographer, your guide to marketing, creativity, and growth. This is a podcast that helps professional, commercial, brand, and headshot photographers navigate the competitive world of commercial photography with practical advice and actionable strategies to grow your business.
Hello there, Sam. How you doing?
Very good, Marcus. And how are you on this fine morning?
I'm really well. God, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Listeners, you're probably wondering why. I was trying to intro to Sam and I couldn't get words out.
We're only on take 493.
I'm good, thanks, Sam. Something like that. Yeah. All good with you?
Yeah, very good, Marcus. Yes, looking forward to this week's show.
Yeah, and I believe you've got a 3-part show planned for us, and you can be delving and diving deep into the subject of SEO.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got an SEO show already, but it's quite brief. So I thought there's a lot to it. So you can't really get that much out of one show. So I'm going to do 3. So that's like our summary show. So these are going to be like 3 sub-shows. So this one's going to be about planning. And then we're going to do one about what we're going to call external SEO and one off-site SEO and one what we call on-site SEO. And when we get to the shows, we'll talk about. So this one is about SEO planning.
I'm going to share 3 things you're going to learn from this episode's SEO journey and why planning is the most important part of the process. First, you'll hear how skipping your SEO plan is a waste of time and what you should be doing instead. Second, you'll discover how to choose the right keywords for your photography business and how to check they're worth the time and effort. And finally, you'll learn about your website's domain score and why it's so vital for getting found in the Google search.
So the first thing, Marcus, the most important thing if you're thinking about SEO is do not start until you have done your planning. Because until you know what keywords you want to be found for, how the hell do you know what to do?
Planning.
So that's it. So planning, we really got to think about this because, a lot of people have WordPress websites and there's a plugin called Yoast, which is great for SEO and it gives you little green smiley faces if it thinks your SEO is good. And so loads of people love to get all their little green faces. But if they've not actually thought what keywords they're aiming for, the whole thing's a waste of time because you don't really know what you're trying to do. So you kind of, you've got a big ship and you're steering it, but you don't know where you're steering it to until you've done your planning. So it's kind of you're wasting a lot of time and a lot of effort. So, yes, I'll stop talking about planning, saying we need to do it and talk about what you need to do. So there's really a couple of things you need to think about with planning. And one is the keywords or the key phrases you want to be found for. So that means things that people type into Google that you want your website to pop up for or a page from your website. The second is geography. So not just which words people are typing in, but where they are when they type them in, because Google knows where they are. And so if you're a photographer down in, say, Bristol, you probably aren't that fussed if somebody types in something related to you in Aberdeen. But you will be quite fussed if somebody types it in Bristol and maybe in Bath, and you need to think about where you want to be found. So they're the 2 key areas when you think about is your keywords and phrases and your geography. Okay. And the geography isn't quite as simple as you think, maybe, because what we need to do is when we've looked at the keywords and phrases, we're going to talk about, we need to kind of look at how competitive those are so we can see, how hard is it to be found for wedding photographer in Bristol? And how hard is it to be found for wedding photographer in Bath? And how hard is it to be found for wedding photographer in Devon? And you kind of look at those. So it might be actually that being found for wedding photography in your local town is really hard because there's some stiff competition. But actually, there's just as much work in the next town. It's not very far. And there's much less competition. It's much easier to be found. So the geography isn't always just as simple as, well, my local town or stuff, because it's worth investigating what's near you. And also looking at that, bigger area. Is it worth going out to the county? Is it worth going out to the region? How much extra work would it be for me to be found in those areas? So geography isn't as simple as I'll pop in my hometown, job done. So thinking about keywords, how do you make a list of keywords that you want to be found for, or key phrases? Now, there's a few things you can do. First of all, you are going to have to use your brain, and you're going to have to think, put yourself in your customer's shoes and think, what are they going to be searching for? And some of the things are really obvious, like we just said. If you are a wedding photographer, typing in wedding photographer is clearly a bloody obvious thing to do. But then think about what other phrases people might use. Wedding photographer near me. What prices are wedding photographers? All sorts of things that people to do with wedding photography might be searching for. What does a wedding photography package include? Just think of all things people thinking about wedding photography might be searching for, and make a list of as many things as you can. Try Google as well, search stuff. And remember, as you're typing in Google, it comes up with suggestions, doesn't it? So as you're typing in one thing, it'll come up with suggested alternatives. So, have a look at those alternatives. See if they are useful too. And just for now, come up with as many stuff as you can. And the other thing is there's loads of websites can help you. One of the ones I'll put links for them in the show note. One of the ones I like to use is Answer the Public. And you put in a phrase or a question, and it comes up with loads and loads and loads of alternatives that you might not have thought of that people use in the searches. It uses search data to come up with the alternatives. So that's really good. So if you type in wedding photographer, it would probably give you 100 different search phrases that people might use looking for those. So that's really powerful. It's one of those freemium sites. I wouldn't subscribe unless you're getting really into SEO. Just use the free version. It gives you loads and plenty of information you need to get you started.
So, Sam, as I understand it then, is this different to ranking your page on Google? Is this where people just are typing in random questions and your page will come up, as opposed to the way it ranks?
That's the same thing. So ranking means where your page comes on a search term. So for any search term, your page will rank first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And it depends on where the person is putting the search term in and what search term they've put in. That is ranking, and you can rank for all sorts of different keywords and phrases.
So if there's someone in branding photographer Bristol, you get a list coming up of people. But if someone typed in, what's the best clothes to wear in a branding shoot? Yeah, that would be, you'd rank different for that. Yeah, I see. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. So you rank differently for every single location and every single keyword or phrase. Spot on, Marcus, dead right. So first thing to do is use those tools like Answer the Public, use Google and use your brain, and come up with a huge list of keywords and phrases that you might want to be found for. Then you also think about the geography, like you said, where might you want to be found for it? Are you talking your town, other local towns, local county, local region, whatever you think is appropriate, possibly wider. Depends on your specialism. Some people, work really locally. Some people travel a long way. Then you do need to use an online tool, and there's loads that are available, and quite a lot of them will let you do this once for free and then try and charge you. So if you're doing it one-off, you'll probably get away with not paying as a kind of tempter to get you in more, but just use the one-off free. But places like there's websites like Moz, and there's loads of other SEO websites that will help you. And what you can do in these websites is you can put in the keywords you want, and if it's free, you might need to trim it a bit. So just have a look and go, right, what's the best ones do I think, because they probably have a limit, and put in the towns or the areas you want, and then it will give you a load of really interesting information that you need. So it will give you the search volume. So that means how many people are searching. So that's really helpful, because if the search volume is too low, you can just cut everything, because there's no point being found for a phrase which nobody's searching for. That's like a total waste of time. So, you can use that straight away to cut a ton of things out. It will also tell you.
What do you call a low volume, Sam?
Of that. So that's a good question. It's going to be comparative, to be honest. Certainly less than 100 a month probably is worth not bothering with. And then after that, it's kind of comparing them. But if it's below like 100 a month, remember we're talking specific phrases in specific places. So we're talking quite refined here. But much below that, I wouldn't bother, certainly. It's then for every phrase. So we'll have a phrase, and then in that town, and the next phrase, and then another area. And so the next thing it'll tell you is the competitiveness. So in other words, how many other people are going for this? How hard is it going to be to get this phrase in this area? And so that's another thing to look at. How competitive is it? And if it's really competitive, you're going to go, is this something I want to go for because it's so important, or am I better going for some of these other phrases that are less competitive? Yeah, so the competitiveness, you've got to use your judgment a bit, is, can I manage this? And the other thing is think about short-term and long-term goals. So if something's really competitive, you might go, okay, in a year or two, I want to be found for that. But in the next few months, that's way too hard. Let me aim to start with something that's not as competitive, that's a bit more realistic. Yeah, so maybe I could get found for brand photography in Bristol, while if I want to get found for brand photography in the Southwest, that's a bit more of a longer term goal because it's more competitive. More competitive. And the other thing it'll tell you is the domain score of other sites that are ranking. So we'll go on domain score in a minute, but it's basically a score that your website gets. We'll talk about that in a second. But the key is you can find your own domain score, and then it'll show you what's the domain score of the other websites ranking. And if you've got a similar domain score with them, then you've got a good chance with a bit of work at getting found for those search terms. If your domain score is way, way below theirs, then you've got to work on your domain score before you've got a chance of being found. So you kind of use all those bits of information to go, what are good phrases and places to go for? You need to think, is there enough search volume? Is the competition realistic? And what's the domain score of the websites compared to mine? And you'll usually find, if you've got a big list of keywords and phrases, that you'll certainly go, ooh, those couple are perfect for me. They've got a good search volume. Actually, not many other people are trying for that. It's relatively low competition. Other sites that are on it have got a domain score similar to mine. And we often do this. We do it loads with our business. For other people, we put in this big list, and you put in loads, and suddenly, you just look at those numbers and sort of 4, 5, 6 suddenly shine out at you and go, whoa, they're the ones we need to aim for because they're not too competitive. There's plenty of people searching for them, and the domain score of the site, the people, the other businesses that are ranking for this, are comparable to mine. So I can really, with a bit of effort, I can be found here. But you can see until you've done all that, well, you're just guessing. You could be aiming for, commercial photographer, southeast of England, and that's like way, way harder than anything else, and there's no way you're going to get it. So you're just wasting your time. So you kind of need all this information for you to go, right, what am I going to do? Which keywords am I aiming for? Which key phrases and where? Then, which is going to be other shows, you can then start to do something with that information and start to do things on your site and off your site to help you get found for those keywords and phrases. But until you know what they are, you're just shooting in the dark, wasting your time.
I remember when I put my website out there and I was getting into this, all in optimization mode, SEO mode, that I was put off by the fact that people were being listed above me who did a bit of branding photography, but let's say they did a lot of wedding photography. And I think there are a lot of people coming to their website. Because of that search term research, look for more wedding photography. Is there anything you can do about that, Sam?
So that's probably, well, there's a few things. There's going to be tweaking your site, which is the on-site SEO and getting found for specific keywords, which we're going to do a whole nother show on. But
Right.
There's the thing I mentioned earlier, which is your domain score, which is an important part of this. So if you want to find your domain score, again, I'll put some links in the show notes, but there's loads and loads of free tools out there that will give you your domain score. And it's basically a score from 1 to 100. Now, please don't get depressed, because for a small business, if you get 20, you are doing amazingly. Don't get upset you haven't got 80. That's like the BBC or Google or something. Okay, let's not worry. 20 is a pretty stunning score. Okay, and if you've got a new site and you've got 0 or 1, that's perfectly normal, but you need to work on it. Okay, and so you get your domain score, and as we say, if you've got like 15, 20, you're thinking, I'm doing pretty well. If you've got like 5 or 2 or something, you're thinking, there's quite a lot to do, and somewhere in the middle, yeah, you need some work. And so it's basically
you're going to share that link in the notes, Sam.
And I shared that, but also there's just search SEO score, and loads of websites do it for free. It's a kind of free service. Loads of things do. And so you've got to think, how do you improve your domain score? So you've got to know what it is. So it's basically how authoritative Google thinks your website is. And it uses a few things to judge that. So first, it judges it on traffic. So it thinks if lots of people are going to your website, they're going there for a reason, so your website must be good. So you've got to find ways to get people to your website, other than Google search, because they're not getting there because you've got a low domain score. So be that paying for ads, working on social, using email marketing, but you've got to get visitors to your website because that will help your domain score, because Google then starts to go, ooh, lots of people are visiting your site. It must be good. There's the engagement on the site once they get there. So once people arrive, are they buggering off quick because it's bloody awful? Or are they actually spending some time there because there's some great content on there? There's amazing blogs, podcasts, articles, stuff that's going to engage them. It doesn't just say, would you like to buy a photograph now? Otherwise, bug off. And here's a gallery of 40,000 photographs, which is a common photographer approach. So yeah, how long are people staying on there and engaging with the site? That's really important. How many other websites are linking to your site? So this is this thing that gets bandied around called backlinks. So that's how many other websites are linking to your site. And we'll talk about in the offsite SEO podcast how you can build that and how you can relatively easily build that. But that's another one. Again, Google thinks if good quality websites are linking to your website, they're doing it for a reason. There must be interesting, engaging, high quality content on this website. Therefore, it's good and Google will give you a better domain score. So Google, if you think about Google, their customers are search people. And so they want, when people type in a search term, for something to come up that is relevant, that is engaging, that is interesting, that is what people want. And so they're kind of, everything is judged on that, really. So yeah, they're using those factors for your domain score. So yeah, you've got to look at your numbers, look at your backlinks. And again, backlinks, there's tons of websites. I'll put some links again. If you search backlinks to my website, loads of free services where you can click in and find any backlinks you've got. And engagement is the interesting, engaging stuff. Are people staying on your website? And yeah, a lot of the off-site SEO stuff will help with all of this. So yes, you then, if your domain score's low, you need to think about those things, make a plan of how you can build your domain score so you can then compete against those competitors with a high domain score.
Nevertheless, there's no denying it. You are an absolute expert in SEO and all things web related. Fantastic stuff there that I action on away.
Cool. Well, I will be testing you next week, Marcus, then. Oh, and very last thing is a couple of tools you need that are completely free. You need Google Analytics or another analytics tool, because you need to know your numbers, how many people are visiting, what pages are they going to, because without that, how the hell do you judge how good your SEO work's going? If you don't know how many people are visiting now and how many people are visiting after you've done a load of work, how do you know if your work that you've done is working and having any effect, and whether you should carry on doing the same thing? So link your site up to Google Analytics. It's completely free. Link your site up to the Google Search Console. That's completely free. That's the one that not many people know about, but that gives you all your search term data. So that tells you how many people search for that term, what ranking you appeared for on average for that term, because it will vary depending on geography and stuff. So it gives you all that vital data so you can see how you're doing.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sam, for sharing all that. And of course, for all our listeners out there, I hope you've enjoyed the show. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Just click the old button up there. And we also have a Facebook group, which I've got to mention is doing very well. We've got fantastic contributors in there. Shoot to the top, please, and be part of the conversation. So thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Marcus. I will see you next week.
So just to recap for our listeners, here are the 3 things we learned about SEO today. First, we heard how an SEO plan is an absolute essential before starting any work on your website. Second, we learned how to use free tools to find the right keywords and geographic areas for your business. And finally, you heard what your domain score is and why it is a vital number to know before you attempt any on-site or off-site SEO.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you want to make sure you never miss a show, head to our website and sign up for the newsletter. We'll be back next week with more practical advice to help you grow your business. See you next time.